and welcome to Health Matters on Channels Television. Thanks for joining us. I am Mary Alale Yusuf. A burn is an injury to the skin or any organic tissue caused by heat, radiation, radioactivity, electricity, friction, or contact with chemicals. According to the World Health Organization, burns account for approximately 180,000 deaths globally every year. And non-fatal burns are a major cause of morbidity, including long hospitalization periods, disfigurement, and disability. They usually happen at home or the workplace. Burns are the 5th most common cause of non-fatal injuries in children. Burn occurrences can reduce because they can be prevented. Many countries have considerably lowered burn deaths through a combination of prevention strategies and better patient care. My guest is consultant burn and plastic surgeon at the National Orthopedic Hospital, Iwobi, Dr. Lawal Mahmood. You're welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
What are the risk factors of getting a burn?
Well, to start with, burns are one of the most devastating injuries known to man because in one fell swoop, the victim may lose not only his skin, his money, his property, and other things that can help him get funds for the management of the injury in the immediate. Depending on the degree and the amount of burn sustained, if he's lucky to survive, he may need to live with some disability and disfigurement. To manage this disability and disfigurement, he may need to endure many stages of complex and expensive reconstruction and rehabilitative procedures. And despite the best efforts, he may not get to the pre-injury level of function. Now, in these stages of management, everybody, well-wishers and friends, will be called upon to contribute something. And that something may be money, maybe physical presence or emotional support. This may be so much drain on their own finances and time. This is why it is important at every opportunity we get to talk about prevention and prevention of burn injury. So whoever uses fire for anything, either for cooking or electricity at home for charging or for illuminating the building, is at risk
of everybody.
Burn injury. Correct.
Not even talking about chemicals or radiology. Already everybody is netted in.
Yes, please. There are other inciting agents that can cause burn, but by far the most common is thermal burn, which is fire. Chemical, radiation, friction are other reasons that can cause burn. People, particularly who work in chemical companies that use chemical for their product, or people who work with electrical appliances, are at risk of such burns.
Okay. I noticed that, if somebody gets burnt, particularly by steam, as a woman, if one cooks in the kitchen, invariably you get one of those burns, like maybe when you're opening a pot and the steam hits your skin, then you put it under running water in the kitchen, but as soon as you take your hand away, it's like it's burning all over again. Why? What's happening?
Because the injury to the skin from the inciting agent has been established. So the running water will help to douse it and reduce the severity of the burn, meaning that the extent of the burn, the depth of the burn can be reduced, can be mitigated if one runs the part of the skin affected under running water for about 15 to 20 minutes or
continuously.
Yes,
no
please.
Wonder. Okay.
Or until pain subsides significantly, because it depends on the inciting agent. If it is fire or chemical, one can run it under running water for that long.
But what I'm even saying is that you run it under the water, right?
Yes.
Let's say it's steam. Then you take it out, and it's like it's burning you all over again. It has reduced under the water. But as soon as you take it out, it's as if you shouldn't do anything again that day except stay on that, running water, feeling better.
It's the injury to the skin. The sensation is injured.
Okay.
So that's why that is so.
So you were talking about categories of burn. Tell us a bit about that. How many categories do we have? What do they mean?
Okay. Thermal burn, this burn that's caused by fire. There is electric burn.
Yes, we've established those ones. But I hear people saying first degree or something like that.
Okay. Depends on the depth of the injury to the skin.
Okay.
Will determine the categorization of the burn. There are some that is superficial, like that of steam injury in the kitchen is usually superficial or superficial partial thickness injury. But in an explosion,
wow,
that kind of burn is expected to be deeper than what one can get in the kitchen. The explosion where fire makes direct contact with the skin for a prolonged period of time can burn up to the bone. So in that case, the burn injury can be said to be between grade 3 and 4.
Okay, so the higher the number, the worse the burn. Yes. So that steam would be maybe like grade 1?
1, yes, 1 or 2.
Okay. What category of burn can you treat back to pre-burn state?
Please, I don't understand that.
As in, if somebody gets burnt, how light must it be for you to be able to treat back to normal, to where it was before it got burnt?
Okay. Well, the more superficial the burn, the better is the prognosis.
Okay.
So it means grade 1, 2 burns are more likely to get to the pre-injury level of healing. But 3 and 4 is likely to heal with a scar.
Okay, so let's get down to some practical things. Let's say there's a fire in a house and somebody gets quite burnt around the body, What is the first thing? What are the first things that people must do for that individual before they can transport him to the hospital?
Okay, the first thing is to keep calm. The rescuers should be calm. If they are not, they can cause injuries to themselves and worsen the injury of the patient. So we should extricate the patient from the burn, from the flame, and run running water over the area that is burnt. Extricating them sometimes may not be that easy. It may mean that the patient will need to crawl out of the building, a burning building by himself. Crawl because that will reduce the chances of him inhaling smoke.
Okay.
If he stands and walks out of the building, he may inhale smoke, and that can also cause him injury in his airway. And then if his clothing is on fire, he shouldn't run. Once he starts to run, the wind continues to fan the embers of fire and worsen the injury to him. What he should rather do is to stop, drop on the floor, and roll until the fire extinguishes. Then he gets up to the nearby bathroom to take a shower.
Okay.
Then the burn is cleaned, and a clean piece of clothing is applied on the area that is burnt, and the patient taken to a nearby hospital. There are some harmful practices that should be discouraged because they worsen the prognosis of the burn wound. Harmful practices like smearing raw pap, eggs, some people put toothpaste, sand. Toothpaste. There are so many bizarre things that we have seen.
I didn't know eggs were bad though. People talk about using eggs.
It contaminates the wound.
Wow.
And worsens the degree. It can make it progress from 1st degree to 2nd and even to 3rd degree.
So just water?
Water.
What about, people mix some things in water sometimes?
No, just water.
As long as it's on a person's skin, just water?
Just water.
No fire extinguisher?
No. Another thing that we should talk about is if it's a chemical burn. Because
Okay.
it's a chemical burn doesn't mean that we should add neutralizing chemical to the patient's skin. In the process of doing the chemical reaction on the skin, that can generate heat that can worsen the burn. Just water will wash off the chemical and reduce the severity of burn to the skin.
If it's someone you have to help into a car to drive to the hospital, how do you place the person if he has burns on the body? Does he sit normally? Do you try and avoid the burnt places? How?
Well, depends on the kind of vehicle and how far the hospital is to the site of injury. But once the burn skin is covered and the patient is made comfortable, preferably maybe you should sit at the back of a saloon car so that he's well rested and taken to the hospital for that treatment.
Some people in movies, when people come out of a burnt building, maybe they're badly burnt, I see them using scissors to cut clothes. What's that about?
Yes, there are certain clothing that are flammable, that are made of flammable materials, like rayon, polyester. When they get burnt, they get plastered to the skin and then increase the severity of burn. So as soon as one should take off the burning garment from the victim in whatever way that is possible. If it means using scissors or means tearing the garment apart, just to make sure that the garment don't contribute to the burn of the victim.
Okay, so apparently if one can prevent burns in the house, that would be like a major breakthrough. It will really reduce the incidence of people getting burnt. So can you give us tips of how we should arrange a house, maybe where we should keep things, and what we should have in a house to prevent burns?
Okay. Fire safety measures should be put in place in any public building and can also be domesticated in our respective homes. What this entails is that there should be a designated assembly point in case of fire where everybody in the building will assemble.
Even in somebody's house?
Yes.
So, for example, if I have a house and it's just me and my family in that compound, we should designate an assembly point?
You should have a place that you assemble if there is an emergency like burn. One should have fire extinguishers placed in strategic locations in the building, and these fire extinguishers must be usable by every member of the house. There should be designated fire exits that should not be obstructed at any time.
Okay.
In apartments with lift and buildings and elevators, one should remember not to use either lift or elevator when there is fire incident in the building. Rather, one should descend the stairs because that's the safest way to get out of the building. And once one gets out of the building, on no account should someone go back into the burning building to fetch anything, no matter how valuable that item is, unless asked to do so by a dedicated fire safety officer for the building, who must have assessed the situation and found it to be safe for the person to go back in.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to ask you about infections, because I suspect that that's what you're thinking about when you keep saying run water, cover with a clean cloth, and all that. So I'm going to ask about how you can prevent secondary problems and whether secondary conditions to a burn are just infections. But we will answer that after the break. Please stay with us. After the break, we want to talk about preventing infections when you get burned. Welcome back. You are listening to Health Matters on Channels Television. When you're watching Health Matters on Channels Television, we're talking about prevention and management of burns. At this point, you can call in with your questions. 0808-054-2233 is the number to call, or send a message on X at CTV_Mary A, or email to moalale@channelstv.com. So, doctor, we were talking about how to avoid an infection. You said you use a clean cloth. But apart from that, are there other secondary conditions that could occur?
Yes. That's why it's very important to go to a certified clinic after this injury occurs, because one has to take preventive measures. The skin is the number one barrier to infection for everyone, and depending on the amount that is injured, makes the victim prone to infection. So the infection may be that affecting the skin that is burnt, or even systemic infection. So
systemic infection?
Yes.
From the burn?
From the burn.
How would that happen?
Because the skin is the first layer is injured against infection. So microorganisms can find their way into the bloodstream through the burn skin.
Through that compromised bit.
Yes, that's why it's not advisable to smear contaminant on the burned skin before going to the hospital.
If someone gets burnt and it's so severe that there's an ooze or or there's a seepage from the area, do you have to do anything extra other than just pouring water?
Well, in the hospital, the dressing agent that will be used will be tailored to the condition of the wound. If it is an exudating wound, we apply exudating.
That's what I just described, seeping.
Yes.
Okay.
We apply absorbent dressings.
Okay.
Because we have to make the moisture in the wound the right amount for the wound to heal. Shouldn't be too much, it shouldn't be too little.
So I take it that just get the person to the hospital as fast as possible.
Correct.
After the water you have poured or whatever. Okay, that's good. Now, you've established that if it's a person, you pour water. If it's a building that's on fire and you want to save people, will water suffice?
No. Well, every public building should have a designated fire safety officer who coordinates drills maybe once or 2 times a year, in which the occupants of the building are made aware of the risk of fire that are present in the building, and what to do in event that there is a fire incident. So the officer will be the one to educate the members on how best to minimize the risk to them.
Okay, so what happens if it's hot oil that pours on somebody's body?
Well,
what can you do in the immediate at home?
It's also to run that part that is burnt under running water.
No oil? No petroleum jelly?
No. Well, petroleum jelly, if it is the bland one, that can soothe the skin. And in this, that means it's a superficial burn we are talking about now, not one.
Sorry to interrupt you. Let's quickly take Innocent, who is on the line. Hello, Innocent. Are you there, Innocent?
Yes, I'm here.
What's your question?
I want to find out what is the appropriate measure. What is the appropriate measure one should apply once one has a burnt injury? What is the appropriate measure to prevent escalation? Okay,
so Innocent, the doctor has already said, he's asking about the appropriate measure when there's a burn injury. And if I'm correct, just tell me, you get water running on that spot to cool the injury, and if it is something really serious, you take the person to the hospital after covering with a clean cloth.
Correct.
All right, got that. Very good. I hope that was okay, Innocent. All right, so let's talk about surgery. When is surgery necessary? And what exactly do you do to save the situation in surgery? I've heard people say things like, oh, they took skin from my neck, they took skin from my back, and stuff like that. You tell us.
Well, this depends on the severity of burn, the extent of the wound we are talking about, and the time the patient is presenting to the hospital. The patient is presenting immediately after the burn, let's say with a very severe amount of burn that will require surgery. So the first thing is to stabilize the patient, because the problem with the patient is beyond the compromise to the skin. He may also have some physiologic problem, challenges resulting from the burn. So it's to stabilize the patient, to correct the fluid and electrolytes imbalance in such patient, and if patients require surgery, is prepared for surgery, where the burnt skin is excised and new skin from the patient is placed to cover the area that has been excised. The skin is usually taken from the thigh.
Okay.
But if the thigh is not enough, it can be taken from the leg or from the back.
How about the stomach?
Yes, it can be
I
taken
heard all
from the
sorts
stomach.
of things. If you can actually get new skin to cover the exposed place after you've removed the burnt skin, why can't the person be restored to pre-injury state?
Well, the extent of the burn, sometimes what is burnt is not only skin.
Okay.
So, and then there are certain things, the new skin that we use to cover, they are not exactly the best fit for the burnt skin. They are just second best. So there are some limitations, some restrictions that are inherent because these skins are not native to the area. So it's usually better to prevent burn so that the native skin can remain.
Okay. So I sometimes see people who are disfigured from a burn, but I often wonder, are they in pain? Does pain stop?
If pain takes about 6 months, 1 year, all the metabolic response to the burn, they normalize within 1 year. But what persists is the deformity, the regret, the psychological trauma that follows the burn, especially if the victim is to blame in some part of the injury. Also, there may be contractures, which is limitation of movement, maybe around the neck or the hand, that may require many stages of complex surgeries.
Okay. Let's quickly take this question or this caller. Emmanuel from Surulere. What's your question or your comment?
Go
ahead.
The best thing to apply when there is a burn to a place, especially small ones, is honey. If you apply honey, it will not cause problem. It will not even swell up or turn out your skin.
Thank you very much, Emmanuel.
Honey is the best thing.
Okay.
Water can even be there, and the anything will let us.
Okay, thank you, Emmanuel. But I need to ask the doctor of his opinion on your comment. He said honey is a good agent.
Yes, honey is a very good agent for it. We use it in the hospital, but it may not be readily available at the site of the injury. So if it is not, it will be all right to just run water and take the patient to the hospital.
Perfect. Thank you so much for coming to the show, Dr. Lawal Mahmood. It's been a pleasure having you. And thank you for being there and giving us those beautiful contributions, Emmanuel from Surulere and Innocent from Abuja. Great to have you joining the show. Thank you, everybody else who's been watching. Have a great day. I am Mary Alale Yusuf.